right, welcome in to Bourbon Banter 22.0 here of Libservative, the first show of
the year 22. That's kind of poetic, isn't it?
Yeah, did I just rhyme and without even realizing I was rhyming?
That's what it seems like.
It's not even. I'm still getting over that. Whatever this cold is, still hoping that it's not COVID. I don't want to make anybody mad. What do you mean you didn't get tested, you asshole? Don't worry, I'm not around anybody. It's almost gone. Relax. He's Corey Walsh.
And he is Dan Griffin.
And Corey has decided to partake in a dry January. All the alcoholics out there are thanking you for.
I'm doing it for the team.
Your commitment.
The team of alcoholics.
So what are you?
Yeah, no, I'm day 7. It's probably the longest I've gone since 21. To be honest with you.
How do you feel?
I feel good. I feel great.
Have you lost any weight? I hear like if people stop drinking alcohol for like a week, they've already lost a couple of pounds.
I guess maybe I've shed some water weight. A pair of my pants did feel a little bit looser, but I wasn't sure if it was like from abundance of stretching at work, like grabbing stuff, or if they're actually falling off my ass because I'm losing it. But yeah, other than that, like I didn't have any withdrawals or anything, so that's comforting.
That's comforting. But, I am enjoying a delicious Tom Collins.
Nice. I still have my Basil Hayden's in the liquor cabinet that is just waiting for me on February 1st.
It's waiting for you.
Just waiting.
I decided to go with the Tom Collins tonight because I wanted a little bit of a summer flair because it is as cold as it's been in the Midwest in quite a long while. In fact, right now, I believe it's about 9 degrees, which I actually did some math on this, Corey. I did some number crunching. It turns out that the temperature outside in Metro Detroit right now is actually the exact same temperature and dryness level of Laura Ingram's vagina. I did the math. I crunched all the numbers. That's exactly.
I'm about to see the work.
That's exactly. I got some graphs that I put together. Jokes aside, her vagina has to be very, very dry, doesn't it?
She is pretty. She's pretty pent up.
Yeah, she just. You could. What's that? Ferris Bueller line? If you shoved a lump of coal up her ass in 2 weeks, you'd have a diamond.
Yeah. Now that is something I probably would agree with.
Fun. Corey, where do we want to start tonight? Do we want to start with the positivity well, actually, we could definitely start with the positivity because the 3 assholes that murdered Ahmaud Arbery were sentenced to life in prison today.
Yeah, thank God. And like I remember when that case came out, it came out right in the midst of like George Floyd and all of the what we had. We had George Floyd. Oh, I'm drawing a blank on the girl's name, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery. And this one was one of the most disgusting ones because it was like 100% like damn near premeditated, intentional. Like they saw him running, they gathered up the boys and hopped in a pickup, chased him down, and shot him. It didn't come out right away until the video was released, and that's when they were arrested. So right from the start, it looked like it was going to be really rocky and really shitty. Georgia doesn't have any state hate crime laws. And the way it shook out, I mean, this is just one case stacked on top of other ones. We've had a lot of really good rulings in the year of 2021. This one came from 2021. The ruling came today on January 7th.
Well, the sentencing, at least.
The sentencing, yeah. And so it's a lot of cases setting precedents for us that are in the going in the right direction. And when I was listening to the last like 15 minutes, I just wanted to hear the sentencing and see if you could see any of them fall out or cry or anything so I could laugh at these racist bastards. But they were pretty stone-faced, probably because they don't have any remorse or heart. And but there was a part that when the judge was talking, he did this thing, and it was really, really like it really hit. I guess it really made you think. He sat there and he goes, all right. He goes, I'm going to make this courtroom. He goes, I'm not going to talk and give a moment of silence, just 1 minute, which was a fraction of the time that Ahmaud Arbery was running. And I don't want anyone to talk or whatever. And I was in the car listening to it, and like it was silent for a minute. And like your mind just starts to really think and then put yourself in his shoes. Because he said, like he was talking about, he was running, for 5 minutes. And I'm sitting there just thinking like how terrified he probably was in the last moments of his life.
And
Literally running for his life.
isn't
And
that
it made me really like get a little emotional. I was like, holy shit.
isn't that interesting? Because you think about a minute, right? And like we've all microwaved popcorn, right? It feels like it's in the microwave for an eternity. But
Imagine
when
if
it
it was actually for your life and not something trivial.
Yeah, but in other cases, a minute seems like it's super fast. Like we've already been talking here for 4 minutes. It seems like it's been 1 minute. And when it's a situation like what you're talking about, it seems more like the popcorn scenario, which is an even longer eternity than it is, just waiting for your poor popcorn to come out of the microwave.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like yeah, no, it was definitely like I can't even think of the words, but like in that minute just thinking about it, just imagine just running for your life for 5 minutes for to no avail.
The amount of thoughts that can go
Yeah.
through your head, and then take that and to put it into an even greater context. The amount of time that Derek Chauvin was leaning on
For
George,
8 minutes.
George
Yeah. And
Floyd's neck.
46 seconds.
Could you imagine that? You
Jesus.
want to talk
Yeah.
about an eternity?
Yeah. What a shitty way to go. Shitty ways to go for these poor people that they're uh the people who did it to them are actually going to be facing some time, so that's good. 2 out of the 3 life without parole, and then the one who was videotaping, he has a chance for parole because he didn't actually kill anybody, but he was very, very complicit.
Yeah.
He was helping use his truck to try to box him in, and
After
yeah, so
30 after 30 years, he becomes
he gets
eligible
a
for parole.
chance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And how old is he? I mean, because he's also, because there's the dad, the son, and then the guy with the camera was obviously. I honestly, I have not paid attention to these 3 assholes' names. I don't really care what their names are. I've just seen,
Michaels and
yeah,
Roddy.
I've just seen a few images, and the 2 older guys are pretty old. I mean, 30 years he's got to sit in prison without parole. I mean, what's he going to be in his 80s, in his
Yeah, the
90s?
camera guy, I'm surprised he actually didn't get an extra charge for his terrible haircut. Boom! Yeah, no, the guy had a really shitty haircut. So
That might be the one thing that will turn Laura Ingraham on. You be careful. Be careful. This is gonna become a running joke.
I love I love the amount of time you spend on Laura Ingram's vagina.
It's a fascinating piece of lady bits. It just is. It's one of those. If I saw it, it would be like a train wreck. I got to know what's going on down there, but I really don't want to know.
let me see your downstairs mix up. Let me take a sip of
Oh
my
man,
coffee. You like my coffee? It has a little C on it.
yeah, because your name's
It's
Corey.
for cock.
Ah,
No, I'm just kidding. It's for Corey.
something Laura Ingraham doesn't enjoy very often. Uh,
Oh, and one thing also I forgot to mention for any of our listeners that are interested, our stickers did come in.
ooh,
The Join Libservative stickers. And if you want one, let us know. Unless you don't live locally, I guess. I don't unless you want to pay for the postage. I'm already way too much money into these things.
join our movement of making thinking sexy again.
Yeah, it's just let's call balls and strikes on both sides so we can actually
I
get
mean, right
somewhere.
now, I can already see like a conservative listening to our show for the first time and hear me say horrible, terrible things about Laura Ingraham and thinking that we're like crazy leftists or something. But just stay tuned. I can promise you that's
Oh
not the
yeah.
case.
Yeah, nope, that's not the case at all. We
And,
call
but then he
we
might see your
vilify
Tulsi,
both sides.
Tulsi poster there behind you and think differently.
That's signed. It says Aloha, Corey. Tulsi.
Why wouldn't she? Why can't she just become a Republican?
And that's what they're saying. Because they'd wash her up and spit her out too. They just like her because the Dems don't like her. That's all it is. It's
Hey,
like you don't know any of her policy.
we've talked about it before. That's what the conservatives do well, man. They just if the libs don't like these people, we're just gonna take them in, even if they don't
Like
want to
Kyle
be pro-gun.
Rittenhouse. Like Kyle Rittenhouse, this pro BLM kid who's like a lifeguard.
Yeah, or any of them. Barry Weiss, Joe Rogan, the Weinstein brothers. Now all of
Jordan
them.
Peterson. Yeah. There's people that are vilified so fast. Yeah, Robert Malone. Jimmy
Yeah.
Dore. Jimmy Dore's the biggest leftist out there. And they just fucking hate him.
Hey, you're an anti-vaxxer.
Oh man. Yeah, no, that's basically what we're here to talk about is breaking down these barriers of this binary, oversimplified thought processes that everyone has shoved down their throat. Hence why our ticker at the bottom says make thinking sexy again.
Not anymore. Now
No,
it's talking about Ahmaud Arbery.
3 men sentenced to life. I
Now it's
love
coming
that.
back.
I love this new ticker. Yeah, by the way, guys, new streaming platform. This is our first time streaming to YouTube. We're gonna see how that goes.
It's
And then
swimmingly so far.
yes, swimmingly. And and yeah, so I'm hoping that this works out good.
More positivity, Corey. Vaccine mandates are coming, or aren't they?
Oh, yeah. Is that positivity? Are we saving like the actual positive stuff for the end? Because
No,
this is a very subjective positivity thing for
yeah, we'll
us, I
go into
guess.
that next. I mean, it's positive for somebody. It's positive for whatever echo chamber you happen to be in. If you're a horrible illiberal liberal, then you would be happy to see them come down. If you are the opposite of an illiberal liberal, which is an illiberal immoral conservative, you're probably, whom I actually agree with on this one. You're going to be happy if they don't come down.
Yeah, so it's coming down to the wire. I think January 10th was like is the date that OSHA recommended people start creating rosters for vaccination statuses in companies that have over 100 employees. But and like we just had a meeting at work today about it actually. They were like, "Oh, I guess we got to get a roster going for you guys." But right now it's in the court system and it's looking subjectively, depending on how you feel about mandates, not about vaccines, but mandates themselves and whether or not someone should be mandated to get a vaccine.
And we should
Uh,
clarify, Corey, for anybody who might be new to the show and anybody who might be an old listener that doesn't listen, we are not anti-vaccine. We are anti-mandate. And I know to some people that's the same thing, but we're not going to have a conversation with those
no,
people.
absolutely. The vaccines work. People that are vulnerable should absolutely get them. But if someone chooses not to get it, then they shouldn't have their livelihood held over they shouldn't be held over a barrel via their livelihood by our government to say, you know what, get this vaccine or you could potentially lose your job.
And look, a mandate is a borderline violation of the Nuremberg Code. What Corey and
This
I
one in particular is.
Yeah, Corey and I went over the Nuremberg Code pretty heavily in our show prep, and it's basically you can't force somebody to get a medical procedure. You just, I mean, that's really what it boils down to. Or when it is something like what these vaccines are, which is still experimental medication, you can't force somebody to take place in an experiment. Did I basically have that right?
Yeah, actually, I'm pulling it up right now. I'm going to read it off. And so, um, the Nuremberg Military Tribunal's decision in the case of the United States v. Wait, it's not. It's called the Nuremberg Code. The Nuremberg Code was created after World War II against the Nazis, of when they were putting them through the trials of war because of the way they treated the Jewish. And the very first part of the Nuremberg Code is the violence bleh, that one of the stipulations for the Nuremberg Code for humans in general throughout the world is the voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved have legal capacity to give consent, should be situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion, and should have sufficient knowledge and comprehension of the elements of the subject matter involved as to enable him to make an understanding and enlightened decision. This latter element requires that before the acceptance of an affirmative decision by the experimental subject, there should be made known to him the nature, duration, and purpose of the experiment, the method and means by which it is to be conducted, and all conveniences and hazards reasonably to be expected, and the effects upon his health or person which may possibly come from his participation in the experiment. The duty and responsibility for ascertaining the quality of the consent rests upon each individual who initiates, directs, or engages in the experiment. It is a personal duty and responsibility which may not be delegated to another with impunity. I read it way better the other night.
Well,
That's
whatever.
such a word salad. That's so many big words. It's basically saying like, hey, if you're gonna have if you're gonna do any sort of medical act on somebody, that you have to have consent
Yeah.
without coercion, without Where does it say it?
Well, and you know what? You know what I think on the crazy illiberal liberal side, what the argument would be, it would be, well, nobody's forcing you to get it. Yeah, not directly, but if I don't get it, I don't get to work.
Well, it
Like,
says right here, should be situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion. I would say that your livelihood is coercion. I would
and
say
I
that
would say that the threat of not having a livelihood anymore would be a threat of duress.
the element, without any intervention of any element of force, you're literally putting an ultimatum on people. And the other thing is, well, you can get tested, just get a weekly test. Sure. What's the rule on that? Is the work going to pay for that? Is the person going to have to take money out of their own pocket to do that?
I can just hear people right now. "Well, just get the vaccine, man. It's easier."
Yeah, absolutely. If you have
Not the point.
comorbidities, if
Not the
you're
point though.
susceptible to it, yeah, if you're susceptible to a sickness, and because the vaccine time and time again shows it lowers hospitalization rates, it makes you not as sick. And if you have any sort of, like, I don't even want to use the word fear because it makes you sound like a right-leaning person. You know, if you have any sort of apprehension towards it, then you shouldn't have to do it. If you think that, I mean, if you have any sort of apprehension against the virus itself, I guess, and you want to actually live your daily life and have uh, this science, this medicine as an extra barrier of protection, then 100% you should do it. We've been advocating the vaccine on our show, since the beginning, but we are 100% against the mandates. I think it's absolutely insane. The people on the left of all people should understand my body, my choice.
Yeah, and you can't forget the idea that, yeah, it's so interesting that has completely flipped. That the
Now
whole
it's
my
the
body,
right
my
saying
choice
it.
thing is
And they
completely.
remember we did that for a red blue pill, I think, actually a few episodes ago. They go, yeah, but you're killing people. And that's the rebuttal from both sides. Because we live in a clown world, bro.
It's so stupid. Um, but it's starting to look like the Supreme Court's leaning in the right direction on this. And what's interesting is I never thought I would say that, because I'm and here's just another great example of how, you know uh opinions can change as facts change. Corey, you talk about that a lot. And when Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett were, about to be brought into the Supreme Court, I was
People lost
fucking,
their minds.
I was one of them. I was absolutely furious, um, because I was furious on the one hand because for some reason liberals don't get this idea where that they need to vote based on a little bit more based on what's going to happen to the Supreme Court, which is something that conservatives do actually pay attention to and vote on.
Yep.
And so this is what happens. You end up with this completely shifted court, which I thought was going to be a really bad thing. And it might still be at some point in the future, right? These are lifetime appointments. We might have, issues when it comes to climate law and other things that I and others may care about. But in this case, can't believe I'm saying it, but I'm saying it. I'm actually kind of happy that we have a conservative Supreme Court to rule on this particular thing,
Oh, absolutely. And we're probably gonna eat our words on this within the next like in months or years to come.
and I'll be
But
happy to do so.
yeah, and I'll be glad too. But like in this case, yes. The 6-3, the 6 conservative, 3 liberal uh, judges looks like on right now on CNN.com. Uh, they say the court appeared ready to reject of one of President Biden's most aggressive attempts to combat the spread of COVID-19, a vaccine or testing requirement aimed at large businesses. But in a separate challenge, so there two challenges. There was like a bunch of challenges brought, but the two that they're focusing on was the OSHA enforced vaccine mandate and vaccine mandates aimed at certain healthcare workers.
And which, by the
Now,
way, OSHA has no authority to put forth a mandate.
right. I mean, occupational safety health, uh, was it not association, administration?
Yeah, they make sure that there are no code violations. That's what they're for.
Right. They're not, code violations at the workplace. They're not there to dictate people's livelihoods because guess what? I'm not at work 24/7. I'm there
Yeah.
8 hours a day.
Yeah.
So you're
Workplace.
forcing me to something to have for work for the rest of my 16 hours. It's just silly.
Be nice if you could just like put on like a vaccine patch when you go to work.
Or
You
like a
take it off.
nicotine patch. But in the separate challenge, some justices seem more open to a vaccine mandate aimed at certain healthcare workers. The court heard arguments for almost 4 hours. The three liberal justices on the court expressed clear approval for the government's rules in both areas. Of course they did. But so we were talking a little bit about so hopefully that's going to get overturned. It's going to get knocked out, And but the healthcare workers is kind of a tricky one cuz like at least it has like a warranted argument,
Right.
but if there's healthcare workers that don't want the vaccine, I think they're warranted to make that same decision as you and I are,
Yeah.
especially
Well,
because they've
I
probably been exposed to it.
I agree with that as well. And the reason like, so if there could be actual definitive proof that this vaccine actually stopped or slowed the spread of transmission, I would be a lot more willing to uh look at healthcare workers being mandated to get a vaccine a lot more seriously. But we know that this vaccine doesn't do that.
Yeah,
Doesn't stop the spread. It doesn't stop infection. We know this.
right.
This
And
is
like,
proven.
anecdotal evidence doesn't hold in a court of law, but when we're just bullshitting like we do on the show, I know I could count I probably need both hands to count how many people I know now that are vaccinated and got COVID. They're fine. None of them went to the hospital. None of them got deathly ill or anything like that. But I mean, yeah. I mean, look at Australia. You're only allowed in and out if you have a vaccine. They got COVID. How does that happen?
Because it doesn't stop the transmission of the virus.
It's a leaky virus
It's a leaky
or
vaccine.
leaky vaccine. I mean, yeah.
And,
Sorry.
and this isn't anything new. I mean, there's a reason we haven't been able to eradicate influenza or any other respiratory virus because they're tricky like that. You can't.
They're a living being that just focuses on surviving, and it's just straight down to evolution or Darwinism. If one strain mutates to circumvent the vaccine, that's gonna be the one that dominates. And when you're putting up all these speed gaps, you're making the virus work harder to let itself survive. Like we're giving it more work to become more of a efficient machine at spreading itself and replicating and reproducing. And
Yeah,
when
I
you
mean,
give everybody a vaccine, now it has to fight that vaccine to survive.
yeah, and I mean that's a controversial statement, but it's definitely a statement that's based in logic. It's something that Brent Weinstein talks about a lot, and certain other virologists talk about similar things to what you just said.
Yeah.
Uh, there are valid arguments against it. However, um, actually, I really don't know if there are really valid arguments against it. The best argument for the vaccine is that the data shows that it does a really good job of preventing serious illness and death, which means if you're afraid of serious illness or death and choose to go get a vaccine, go get a vaccine.
It's funny because that's where the argument should end. I shouldn't have to explain all that other stuff in the first place.
No,
You know what I mean? Like, I shouldn't have to say, like, well, listen, this might not work because of this. If you want the vaccine, get the vaccine.
the arguments, because we are still arguing about this vaccine as if it is going to stop the spread of this virus. And we have
Yeah.
known for over a year now that that's not what this vaccine does.
In a world where goalposts are moved by the second, for some reason, this
It's
one is
just
just cemented in the ground.
it's just incredible. There's nothing left to argue about. But we
Right.
got to do it. We got to do it because there's lots and lots and lots of money involved. We
I
all
knew
know
you were going to
this.
say money before you said it.
Yeah, I mean it is what it is. This is going to be the most profitable medication in the history of the world. These vaccines.
Absolutely.
And, so what do you do?
Subsidized by the government,
Yeah, and
who has
I
empty
mean,
pockets.
of course, you want everybody to get a vaccine because lots of people get to make money on it. And what's funny is that like the people that think everybody should get vaccinated and lose their shit when you talk about, well, I'm pro-vaccine but anti-mandate, and they don't really know how to deal with that. They don't really know, you know what I mean?
So they just go to their talking points.
They just kind of freeze and go to their talking points.
of
it's
advocating the vaccine. It's like, dude, you're wasting your breath. I understand. No, I get it. I'm advocating the vaccine. Like I told my parents they need to get it. I tell all the people in my family, if they're vulnerable, especially, you should probably get the vaccine. That's what I say. Just like, yeah, yeah, but yeah, I know I get it, but you should probably get it.
but it's simple. If it stopped the spread of the virus, we could have more of a legitimate discussion about mandates. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah. If
If
it wasn't so leaky, maybe then the other argument that I was talking about of it thriving on trying to circumvent it wouldn't be a conversation either because it would just be a firewall.
they still
It still wouldn't
talk
be able to
about
get in and then learn how to replicate around the vaccine and then leave.
they still
You know
talk
what I
about
mean?
this fucking vaccine as if it is going to end COVID. I
It's
mean,
not going to.
you
COVID's
you
ending COVID.
you don't need to open your eyes very wide to understand that that's just not gonna happen. It
Yeah,
just isn't. So what are we arguing about?
right. Like we still are on the flu virus. You
Yeah.
know, we still have to make a new vaccine for that. Like, is that what this is going to be? That's fine. I don't care if they have to give out a new COVID vaccine every 6 months for people to get boosters and stuff. That's fine. Just don't mandate it. We don't mandate the flu vaccine.
No.
Michigan's actually one of the only states that doesn't even mandate vaccines at all for kids to go to school. I think there's 12 states in total that do that.
Yeah, don't they leave it up to the district? Because I remember having to get them.
Did they leave it up to the
I
district or
I
was it
I have no idea, but our out-of-state listeners don't give a shit.
right? Or did they just make it like like encourage it strongly?
I mean, I know that there's still exemptions, right? There's always been, like, religious exemptions and things for vaccines,
Right.
various other things.
Which also, if you're an anti-vaxxer in general, it's like, just stop. Just stop it. Like
Oh,
vaccines
god.
save lives. Vaccines are used on all the food you eat. They use it on all the farms. Vaccines save lives.
Dude, you know what I find so interesting is that before COVID was even a thought, uh, I can't even remember. I saw a documentary. I can't remember what it was called. It might even have been that pandemic documentary about, the possibility of the flu taking over. Did you see that? It came out like right before COVID. It was on Netflix, and there were all the anti-vaxxers, like the old school anti-vaxxers that like won't get their children vaccinated from anything. Dude, they're all hippies. They're all liberal hippies. Every
Yeah.
single one of those people that like wouldn't get their kid the measles and the MMR vaccine and and everything else that you have to get. They're all hippie. Now it's like completely shifted to the other side.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think the hippies are just being quiet. They don't want to be outed. So
That's
good job, Dan. You blew it for them.
I guess I did. Sorry, hippies.
Yeah, yeah, they're finding common ground with the right. Isn't that kind of funny how this is working out like that? Um,
That's why we do the show, Corey. That's why we're
that's
here
why
every
we
week.
do the show. That's why I get dressed.
Shall we spread the positivity, Corey?
Yeah, let's spread some positivity.
I gotta pull up the right graphs here. So something that we actually meant to get to in our year-end show, we did not get to until today because we went over too much positivity leaving 2021, and we're trying to spread it back in to 2022. Start the year on the right foot. I wanted to talk about two things that we are often told about on social media, in the news, from economists and basically every walk of life, which are climate change and poverty. Right? These are two things that we're taught are absolutely catastrophized, and it's going to be the end of the world, and there's too many hungry people, and California is going to fall off the edge of the United States, which some people might support anyway. It's a joke. Relax, California. Uh, but I don't think we often look into like the relative positive data as decades and years have gone by regarding these two particular things. And I'll start with because things actually are better. Now, I might get some New York dog walker that might scream at me and say, well, yeah, but it's not good enough. That's not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying. But occasionally we can have a look at the data and realize that things are better. And that doesn't mean we can't have a long way to go. I mean, Corey, don't we often talk about, racism in America as far as how we still have a long way to go. Obviously, we just talked about the Ahmaud Arbery murders earlier in
Right.
the
We're
show.
getting there, but we
We
have a
know
long
racism
way to
exists,
go.
but if you want to actually sit here and pretend like it's still as bad as it was in 1963, why don't actually talk to a black person that actually lived back in 1963 and see if things are better or worse. Obviously,
Right.
they are better. And it's okay to recognize that sometimes without you shouldn't have to be, oh, you're just downplaying the problems. Not downplaying the problems at all.
Absolutely not, as evidenced by the Ahmaud Arbery case.
Absolutely. So I wanted to start with climate change because
Okay.
what are the talking points that you often get from, people that are seriously freaked out about climate change? You often get, um, we need more renewable energy. Okay. We need, we have more kilotons of CO2 per year almost every year in the United States and globally. What are some of the talking points you get from the right? I don't know that you can really call them climate change deniers anymore. I mean, people will, but I would like to refer to them a little more as skeptics as far
Yeah.
as
You've
not
heard the goalpost moved to where now it's like, yeah, there is climate change, but how much of it is actually from humans?
their biggest talking point is like, okay, well, even if we reduce our emissions to zero, China's still polluting. What do we do about the rest of the world?
Right.
And I think that's also a stupid talking point because you still have to do your part. And there's actually been some more and more data coming out of China that China's kind of starting to realize that, like, hey, look, um, polluting the earth and causing global temperatures to rise, probably not good for our bottom line either, because we got a lot of people getting sick from
Yeah.
horrible pollution in Beijing. So like even a socialist or a communist country like China recognizes that there might actually be some financial incentive to maybe bring these emissions down just a hair.
Yeah. They might make their people a little bit happier if they're not coughing up blood while they're enjoying their meager salaries.
So let's pop this piece up here. Um,
Pop
so
that tear sheet up there.
pop that tear sheet up there. So this is U.S. carbon emissions, CO2 emissions from 1960 to 1921, and if you look at the and this is from macrotrends.net, something that I usually trust. You can see that obviously the overall kilotons has gone up significantly since 1960 with a couple of dips, but peaking here, it looks like in like 2007. And this is what I'm talking about the positivity, right? Like, is it enough? No, but like, notice how this number trends down.
Yeah, we get a little bit of ratchets, but yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see that, like, it we have to continue to try to level off emissions, but it's good to see that that overall number is at least flatlining. Like, you have to start with something, right?
Right. And when you look how long it took to get there, it's probably gonna take somewhere unfortunately, it's probably gonna take some sort of trend like that for this to go back down. You're not gonna see just a sudden drop. It's gonna be gradually going down like it gradually went up.
So in 1917 not 1917, 2017 to 2018, we're at the lowest the lowest since 1994, 1995. Like, that's 20 years prior.
30 almost.
Yeah. And then if you look at metric tons per capita from 1960 to 2000, I think that's 18, that's been steadily dropping since 2001. And it's actually below 1980.
Yeah.
Per capita, we were actually at our highest in
It's below
1973.
1960.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're right. It is. Yeah, if you go all the way back, it is below 1960. Because 1973 was when people started freaking out about the emissions for the first time. It was like, okay, this is a real problem. That's when you first started seeing
Unleaded gas and
and automakers doing things to reduce emissions, and so the per capita number is actually really good, really
yeah.
good. Doesn't mean we need to stop. It doesn't mean
Right. But
we're
let's pat
done.
ourselves on the back a little bit here. It's
Right.
not all doom and gloom. We're working on it. You know, and we're obviously doing what we're supposed to by making people aware of it. Because we got young people even now, like to the point where they're becoming social media stars on this issue alone, like Greta Thunberg. You know what I
And
mean?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Europe's numbers are basically right on point with ours when it comes to per capita and kilotons of CO2 overall.
Yeah, and that's just the US. So if you compound that into a lot of the different places, I mean, we're trending. There's, what is it? The Earth is getting greener now.
Yeah, well, that's oh shit. I actually think I had that 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 NASA report.
That, throw that tear sheet up there.
It's just an article, but it's actually from NASA, and it's greener climate prediction shows plants slow warming, which makes complete sense, right? If you put more CO2 into the atmosphere,
I don't know
it's
if you wanted me to add it, but I did.
that's all right. Yeah, you probably can't really read it up there, but
Oh, probably
um,
not. It's for the visual effect, Dan.
so yeah, it makes complete sense that the plants breathe CO2, right? So the more CO2 you have in the air, the more you're going to reduce emissions, right? You would think, right? It would eat up a little bit more of that CO2 and it would actually make the earth greener, which would then reduce emissions even further. And the study from, I don't think it was a study. I think it was actually what the fuck? What the fuck do you call these damn things? A modeling. They did a modeling. And the cooling effect would be negative or would be 0.3 degrees Celsius or 0.5 degrees Fahrenheit globally and 6 degrees over land compared to simulations where the feedback was not included. So without this extra greening, those negative numbers of warming would not exist.
Right.
So it's like a good thing we could do is plant more trees. And
Thanks, Earth Day.
yeah, you've heard that. You've heard that ever since you were in elementary school about
Plant a tree on Earth Day.
yeah, about planting trees on Earth Day. And look, that's another thing too. Like a good majority of the lumber and paper, at least that we produce here in the United States, these are from pre-planted forests. This isn't. We're not knocking down the rainforest, at least not in the developed world, like we were at certain points.
Yeah, Brazil's still being pricks about it. Bolsonaro is out there like, cut them down.
Well, and why is that?
Because it's lumber and he wants to sell it.
And a little more poverty, right? Like it's really, and that brings us actually maybe to the poverty discussion, which is that the poorer the planet is per person, the worse it is for the climate, right? Because now you have more people using wood, which for fuel, which is actually the biggest pollutant. I think we talked about this a little bit last week, didn't we, Corey? About how slowly through time, as we degraded our fuel from wood down to coal and oil and
whale blubber,
some of the other things that we talked about, the emissions actually started to decrease. So the poorer the Earth is, the poorer the people are on planet Earth, the worse it actually is for the climate. And the interesting thing about that is that the richer you become, the less you have to worry about where your next meal comes from, the more you're actually able to worry about the climate. It's an interesting dichotomy, isn't it?
Yeah, when you're out there living in a hut, having to walk 6 miles to get fresh water and do all that crazy shit that some of these poor people have to do in these third world countries. I'm sorry, developing countries, if you want to be more PC. The last thing they're fucking worried about is what the world is going to be like 10, 15 years from now when they're worried about their meal of tomorrow.
No, they got to cook today. They need heat today. They're going to cut down that tree.
I mean, yeah, a lot of people can't afford to worry about climate change. And that might actually be one of the sticking points of like that is stuck in the subconscious of people when they immediately knee jerk against climate change. Because like a lot of them, people work in oil fields, they work in coal mines and things like that. And you're talking about changing the livelihood of a lot of people. And as we I'm kind of thinking about this as we're spitballing here. And like we literally just had a conversation about our own livelihoods being held over a barrel. Well, not yours, but mine when it comes to the vaccines and stuff like that. And I can understand that feeling of like, whoa, what are you doing when people try to talk about someone's livelihood when they attack oil and stuff when it comes to climate change. I get it. But that doesn't mean that we can't still do it I
And
guess I
that's
don't
and that's you know, and
know.
that's where we still need to get better. No, and I'll tell you how it could still be done. You know, if big fuel really wanted to take it seriously and still turn a major profit, you know, they could find ways to do it. You know,
Yeah.
getting behind EVs, getting behind building nuclear plants.
Right, or
And
invest heavily in the next cutting edge. When you have that money, when you're a big corporation like ExxonMobil or BP and things like that, and you just have these billions and billions of dollars, instead of using that money to lobby the the government to stifle climate change, why don't you use that for research and development?
well,
It's
that's
all
what
tax deductible anyways,
that's
and
what they
then
all say because big pharma does the same thing. That's what they all say they do. They're like, well, we need these government subsidies. We need them for research and development, and like hardly any of it goes to research and development. It all goes back into the company and back into putting more lobbyists in Washington
right.
to get themselves in the
Yeah, I don't
pockets
understand how they
of
even use
politicians.
that as an argument because research and development is a tax deductible thing, 100%, like an employee.
Yeah, big fuel or big oil cannot sit there and say with a straight face that they can't figure out how to uh, get us further and further away from fossil fuels and not be able to turn a profit doing so. Like that's bullshit.
Absolutely.
Show me the numbers like Elon Musk.
Right, show me
We'll
the numbers.
fix it. But as it comes to poverty, Corey, that's actually another thing that we're told world hunger is this horrible thing. And here's the thing, dude. It only is a horrible thing because of politics. It's not because we don't produce enough food. It's not because we don't produce enough food here. It's not even because the developing world doesn't produce enough food. And if you want to see that, I've got a source from the UN Food and Agricultural Organization that I will throw up here real quick for you to take a look at. Uh, this is a daily supplies of calories from 1961 to 2013 globally, right? So if you look at North America, that hasn't been an issue uh, in a long time. The only places you really need to look at really are are Asia and Africa, because everywhere else has been, mostly first world for a while, with the exception of a few European nations. But even if you take a look at what do you think of as the poorest continent in the world, Corey, today? I would say Africa, right?
Either Africa or the Middle East.
So even in 1961, average calories per day per head was about 2,000. That's below what you would want per head for a lot of reasons. Even all the way up to today, Africa, and I believe this goes it goes up to 2013, is well above 2,500 calories per head per day. Now, should it be more? Maybe, but all the nutritionists tell you 2,500 calories a day, that's good. So there still isn't a ton of excess, obviously, in the poorest areas of the world, but there is enough. There is enough food for everybody to be well nourished. And when you hear about people, when you hear people talk about the starving kids in Africa, well, they're only starving because there's some coup or some authoritarian government that we probably put in place, if we're really being realistic,
Oh,
uh,
and yeah, in a lot of those countries, more
starving
likely
their
than
own
not.
people. Like that's what's happening.
You're absolutely right.
This graph is pretty obvious. And so as it goes towards, the positivity narrative, this is a graph that is trending in the right direction for something that we're told is such a huge problem globally. And it is still a huge problem, but it's because of people. Uh it's not because the food can't be produced for every single person on earth, because we always hear about like what is it? Overpopulation, right? There's too many people on earth.
Right.
I think that's mostly bullshit. I think that'll level itself off in its own way. Um, but yeah, I mean, if we're talking about damn near 8 billion people now, and you're getting more food per head than you were in 1961, I mean, that obviously tells you that we have the capabilities of producing enough food to feed everybody on Earth.
Yeah, and it's only in like what's interesting too about it is like as technology and stuff continues to like advance, there's no way that these like unless short of human intervention, these numbers are going to keep trending in the right way. People are using more and more technology on their farms to make the food more efficient, less cost, and making it more efficient, more cost effective. Farms now are using like technology to properly do water irrigation. There's more water conservation and more water's being used more efficiently on farms and things like that. There's it's just, yeah, things are trending in the right direction overall with the food.
Yeah,
Now it's distributing it more widely is another issue that we definitely have to work on and things like that. And
relatively better. You have more people living in cities, in more of I understand, this is more of an economics question that maybe we'll have on a different day, but overall, the move into cities has put people closer together. It's made them be able to expand their ability of work. It's made them be, more have a better chance in a middle class lifestyle because as early as I think the 50s. I don't have this in front of me, but it's easy to find. Something like I think it was 1900 actually. Um, Something like 40% of the workforce worked in agriculture in the United States. Now it's 2. It's like 2%, and we're producing more food more efficiently with 2% of the workforce being in agriculture. By the way, still broke as fuck. If you didn't know, farmers are still broke as hell. It's getting harder and harder for farmers. And that's for other political reasons that maybe we'll talk about on a different day.
Yeah, they're getting fucked by the big agriculture. More and more small mom and pop farms are getting bought up by these big companies, and they're coming in and stifling small business. It's just like any other industry.
Forced to plant the Monsanto seeds. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's brutal. It's brutal to be a farmer. You work your ass off for almost no money. And then, we sit there and we go, how come there's no lettuce when we walk into the Whole Foods? How come there's no lettuce today?
Where's my iceberg lettuce?
Blow me.
And with that, that's a good segue.
No, I think the last thing I want to talk about with regards to poverty is it's kind of borderline because it's not really as it pertains to poverty, but it's the workers' rights aspect of it all. As the middle class continues to shrink in the United States, and the proportion of people that are closer to poverty get larger, and it really makes me feel good about the fact that we are the first generation, I want to say since probably our grandparents, Corey, that have really, really latched on to workers' rights to try and grow that middle class again. Because
it deteriorated over the last, 50 or some years from the 70s.
Workers stopped fighting for themselves. They stopped fighting for themselves. And it's almost like, I don't think this is true at all because I'm not one of these weird conspiracy theorists, but let's just say that like the conspiracy theorists are right and the government really is using COVID to like control us. I can tell you that it's fucking backfiring.
really bad. Because workers' rights are going are going way up. More and more people are getting unified about being against big government. There's a microscope on every single bureaucracy in our government right now, from Department of Education to health.
Yeah, and it's almost like, I know where we are right now with the vocal minorities on the left and the right that we hear so often. But I think that's another positive thing is that, I could sit here as somebody who has traditionally leaned more left, and I could probably sit down with a Trump voter, and I could guarantee you we could agree on, wage inequality, and we could agree on, mandates.
Essentially, you did that, Dan, in our second episode.
Who's our second episode with again? I forgot.
Eric.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He was the one that ran the Metro Detroit Trump campaign in 2016.
Yeah, we did do that. And that's the thing is, like, at the end of the day, like, everybody just wants to be more comfortable and wants to, have enough money to
Yeah.
pay their mortgage.
And it's amazing too, it blows my mind. Like even all these people on the right and stuff like that, like you hear people like Bernie Sanders say anyone working 40 hours a week shouldn't have to rely on the government. What is there to disagree with that? Because of the person who said it?
Mm-hmm.
You could still disagree with 90% of the things he says. But if you agree with 10% of something he says, everyone's forced to say that they don't like him and don't agree with it just because they say it.
I'll give you another great example. I can't remember what the tweet. What was the tweet? Because we're going to talk about this in Red Pill, Blue Pill. But what was the tweet that actually got Marjorie Taylor Greene booted from Twitter?
I don't know. Wasn't it something that was like objectively true?
It was. It had something to do with. I think it had something to do with. It had something to do with the vaccine. But whatever she said, she spun it in like a really cunty Marjorie Taylor Greene way. But what she said was actually not that terribly off base. It certainly wasn't enough to be considered like dangerous. I can tell you that right now. It doesn't matter unless you can find it.
Oh, that's August 9th, 2021. So that's not it.
She was a vaccine skeptic. And look, I think she's a horrible human being. I think she's the biggest idiot to ever make it into Congress, but doesn't mean I think she should get kicked off Twitter for being a vaccine skeptic, nor should anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. No. At what point are we going to consider things like Twitter actual public squares and not just stifle people's voices based on what our personal convictions are?
I will say this, though. The people on the right that were always bitching about @Jack, Mr. Jack Dorsey,
Yeah.
missing
He's
that
not there anymore.
missing that motherfucker right now because you've
Right.
seen what's happened since then.
Yeah. Yeah. People are just getting just nixed from Twitter left and right. And then that other platform, Getter, is moving up. Free market. I made a Getter actually for Libservative. I didn't make one for myself though.
I haven't either. Okay. Red pill, blue
All right.
pill. Might as well
Yeah,
get
we already kind of started that. So the red pill, blue pill this week. For the new listeners, red pill, blue pill is we find a very heated topic that's typically the arguments from both sides are typically very subjective and opinionated based in emotional outbursts. And and we just tried to pick through the bullshit and decide which side that's screaming makes more sense. And so for this week, the red pill, blue pill is the banning of Marjorie Taylor Greene on Twitter.
So the red pill is, this is censorship. This is violating First Amendment rights. And the blue pill is, she's speaking dangerously. She's going to get people killed. People are going to die because of what Marjorie Taylor Greene said.
Oh, man, we haven't done a red pill and a blue pill in a while. It's also, don't forget, once a month, we do get a bullet.
Yeah.
So we get one shot, one cop out of 4 episodes to say, I'm not choosing either side. Take me out behind the tool shed and put me down like Old Yeller. I'll let you start, Dan.
Dude, I'm taking the red pill. I'm taking the red pill all day long for a couple of reasons. One, I hate Marjorie Taylor Greene with a passion. Like I actually, when I look at her face, I get mad just by looking at her face. Her face
pisses me off.
Her face makes me so angry. But I do follow her on Twitter, or I did, and I absolutely loved a lot of the things that she tweeted. I loved shit talking Marjorie Taylor Greene on Twitter.
Oh yeah, how are you supposed to hate her if you don't know what she's saying now?
It was so much fun, and that's the biggest point. Like, I don't necessarily agree. Like, I think the conservatives that are getting booted from Twitter, or their people are getting booted from Twitter, I think they're the way they scream about it is a little bit self-aggrandizing. I don't necessarily agree with the way they talk about it, but the overall point, I completely agree with. I would so much rather know what Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying on Twitter in an open platform where I can see everything than
call her a dumbass.
Than have her go to like some dark corner of the internet and spew her QAnon bullshit to or only people that she says can see it. And
Yeah.
I felt the same way about Donald Trump. Didn't want him to get banned. I don't want anybody banned from fucking social media. I want it to be considered a utility.
Right. Exactly. And it's right now, half the country's okay with it because it's not their side.
Wait
That's
till it
getting
is.
yeah, that's getting stifled, but it's setting a precedent that, like, they're able to do it to whoever they want. You can just be banned. It could be something that, like, let's say you're a super far leftist, and then the right, just gains control, and like this happens to be a conservative that's voted into power because it's a public company.
Yeah.
They can vote, and let's say it's swaying the pendulum, swaying the other way, and you're a communist, and you start uh, talking about the red, and like social and like communism and stuff like that on Facebook or Twitter. And what are we supposed to go back to the Red Scare 1920s and you get put on a list? Like that's the type of shit that happened back then to liberals. They literally got put on lists because they spoke about socialist ideologies with like under McCarthyism and the FBI and all that stuff. And now it just happens to be happening to the right, so the left is okay with it. But as evidenced by history, that pendulum can swing back and forth,
And it will. It
and it
will.
will. Yeah.
It might not be for another 20,
Free
30
speech
years,
is
but it
free
will.
speech is free speech, man. Like if some idiot has misinformation, has a shitty argument, then combat that with a better argument.
Yeah, and here's the other thing is like if you so everybody's got a phone, right? Like Sprint isn't going to can't deny me business based on what my political affiliations are. However, if I call somebody or I, text somebody and I threaten them, I'm going to kill you. Guess what? The FBI or the cops are going to show up at my door because I placed a legitimate threat. There's no reason
Yeah.
Twitter can't be the same way. But
Right.
but
Yeah. If there's legitimate threats, then investigate that.
yeah,
You know.
100%. But if I text if I have a group text that goes out to 4,000 people, right? Let's say I got 4,000 people in my Rolodex, 4,000 people, and I say COVID's not real. Is Sprint going to take my phone away? Are they going to cut off my service?
Right. No. And and it's just like what you said. Like if someone on Twitter says a threat to somebody, then that's a course that they should be investigated for and possibly face charges for. But it's just like if you have a phone and you have a phone number and you call someone and you threaten them on your phone and you get that charge, you don't lose your phone number. Like you still have your fucking phone. You know what I mean?
If Verizon takes away your phone number because you
Like,
called
oh,
a
that's it.
oh my God, you called a Republican? No more Verizon for you.
And I get like it's a private company and they can make their own decisions. And I love how that argument is so arbitrary that like when it comes
Utilities
to
are
this,
private
it's
companies too, Corey.
yeah,
The
yeah.
Consumers Energy is a private company, but it can't.
PG&E who went bankrupt. Yeah,
It,
so that's just it. Like I love how when it's a private company, when the argument for it's a private company is in your favor, you use it. But like in the same breath, when you say, well, a private company can choose whether or not their employees have to be vaccinated, and you're like, oh no. But then when someone gets banned on Twitter, they go, oh well, it's a private company. They can choose what they want to do. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. And it's just back to it, like to round it back up. Like I
God,
said, free speech is free speech. I want to know what these idiots are saying so I can point to them and say, look at these idiots.
100%. That's the way I've always felt. It's like I would rather a white supremacist group have a Twitter feed, than be off in some dark place of the internet. I mean, there's a lot of psychologists and others that talk about this. It's like it is so much better when these groups are out in the open than when they're fucking underground. You don't want them underground.
No, I don't want them underground. Like then I don't know what exactly. I don't know what they're saying. I don't know what they're doing. Because let's be honest. Anyone who's listening to Marjorie Taylor Greene about even if she is saying dumb shit, they already believe that before she said it. They're in that echo chamber already.
Yeah.
They just like her saying it because it's a feedback loop for them.
Yeah.
There ain't no sane person on Twitter that's like, well, boy, I'm sure glad these vaccines are out. And then they see Marjorie Taylor Greene say that and they go, oh my God, she's right. You know what I mean? Like, if someone's an idiot to believe that shit in the first place, it's not Marjorie Taylor Greene that's changing their mind.
You're sure about that, Corey? You're sure?
That's enough. I'm on the mic.
Boy, I'm sure glad I saw that Marjorie Taylor Greene tweet. I was about to get my booster.
Ooh, she saved my life.
Right? Like, give me a fucking break.
Oh, man. Oh, that Lauren Boebert, she's an idiot, but she sure is hot.
Yeah. She is. She's a cutie.
And oh man, I felt one way about Israel, but then I saw AOC's tweet. Now I feel a little bit differently.
Right. Oh, never mind her voting stance on it.
Taliban still has a Twitter. You pointed out.
Yeah, that's a very good piece to add to this. That the Taliban still has a Twitter. The acting president of the Taliban of Afghanistan, who is Taliban, has a Twitter, just spreading his propaganda all over the place. And I'm not, misinformation, disinformation, and I'm not saying that he should be banned. I'm saying nobody should be banned like that. Short of obviously if there's guidelines and things and you're posting pictures of your balls or something like that on Facebook when you're not supposed to, then sure, you can be banned when there's rules and guidelines. But when it's just text, when it's just you putting letters in a certain way, you know what I mean?
But if those balls are shaved, you're good. As long as you shave your balls.
I have a funny story about a ball picture, actually, but I'm not going to share it on the air. Remind me to tell you after. Maybe one day I'll tell the. Maybe when I'm uncancelable, I'll share that. Yeah, so I'm red pill. I'm red pill with you.
I think that was pretty easy.
That was an easy one. Yeah.
We don't often it's not often that the red pill just goes down so easily, but this one really did. And it had to do with Marjorie Taylor Greene. What does the world come to?
Yeah. Let the idiot speak.
Taylor Greene was that easy to defend. Ooh, man.
How do we know the village idiot's the village idiot? I don't know. He's being an idiot. Can't you see? If we lock him up, then we don't know he's the village idiot.
Oh, did you have anything else before I get to my monologue?
No, I think that's it right now.
All right.
We're going to beat this one to death like Marjorie Taylor Greene's Twitter, social media footprint.
I'll pull this thing up because we are going to, because we're going to discuss, Don't Look Up, but we're going to be able to do that anyway because that is actually what my monologue is about. That wonderful film. Don't Look Up got it right, even if it got the climate change part wrong. Adam McKay and David Sirota's Netflix blockbuster Don't Look Up appears to be a simple film on its surface, a satirical allegory about the impending doom that will befall planet Earth in the form of climate change. Now, nobody cares to do the right things to stop it. In the name of money, ignorance, and arrogance. McKay and Sirota have said themselves that this is exactly what the film is about. But the thing I'm noticing most about Don't Look Up is that its merit is not its merit in the world of classic films, but the reactions and reviews for this film. The way it's portrayed by professional critics and amateur critics alike, seemingly all based on political lines. Who could have guessed that? Well-respected thinkers on both sides of the free market versus social regulation lines are reviewing this film on how they feel about the creators of the film and what it represents. If you happen to dislike David Sirota, who is a self-proclaimed independent and former speechwriter for Bernie Sanders, you may simply call the film a, quote, bad allegory, with absolutely no explanation as to why it's so bad. You may accuse the film of gratuitous star casting or being too arrogant. Again, why? The thing that seems to be missed by folks judging this film based on the superficial plot lines are playing into the deeper meaning of the film, which is that we just don't listen. And if we do listen, we don't take the time to analyze and question what we actually just listened to. We take the things that we hear as we take all the things that we hear as gospel because it, quote, sounds better to us. It fits the narrative that we think explains the good and the bad of the world around us. Truth be damned. A huge comet is plummeting toward Earth. I hear some very smart people say, quote, no way our government would just brush it off or come up with ways in which the science is wrong. It's a bad allegory for climate change. Climate change isn't the same. No settled science. A plummeting comet would be settled very, very quickly. Put the climate change stuff aside and look around you. If COVID has taught us anything, it's that intelligent and well-respected scientists and doctors don't even know what the fuck science is anymore. The inventor of the mRNA vaccines, Dr. Robert Malone, was just permanently banned from Twitter in late December. The man who actually helped create the technology for the supposedly world-saving COVID vaccine that so many people use to stand on a hill of false morality and spit at the peasants below. Why was Dr. Malone banned? For, quote, spreading misinformation about the vaccine that he fucking helped create. Imagine banning Henry Ford for speaking in a town square about the dangers of assembly lines. It's madness. Furthermore, the money angle is something else that seems to be missed when people are criticizing Don't Look Up. The satirical way in which a billionaire takes advantage of a crisis for profit. Another bad allegory? Not at all. Unless we've forgotten about the drug epidemic that has killed 760,000 people since 1999, more than 2/3 of which were due to prescription opioids, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. A buffoonish president and Congress refusing to agree on essential measures to save planet Earth based on political lines, under the guise of just making sure the other side doesn't get a win? Morality and logic be damned? Let me point you to the ridiculous shortage of COVID-19 tests as Omicron rips through the world population. Or how the FDA is dragging its feet on the approval of rapid tests, of which we have one approved manufacturer as of December 2021. And a manufacturer called Blink Science right here in Florida that isn't allowed to sell its tests domestically because they're not FDA approved, but has no issue shipping them all to Europe. Don't Look Up is a perfect satire, not just for how we deal with climate change, but to me, more importantly, how we deal with ourselves and with others, how we deal with the information we receive and the information we refuse to see or seek out. So, thinking that Don't Look Up is an arrogant attempt to make Americans feel stupid, look in the fucking mirror. I have seen so many just absolutely callous and cynical reviews of this film. Look, it's not Goodfellas, right? It's not some sort of it's not some sort of amazing,
not Martin Scorsese coming in.
No, it's not some sort of amazing film that's going to make you come back, but like come back again and again. But like to criticize it based on political lines, you're just completely missing it. You're completely missing the fact that McKay and Sirota are making fun of, they're not making fun of Republicans. They're not making fun of Democrats. They're making fun of everybody.
You know, it's funny in missing it, you're only proving the point of the movie more.
And that's the point of the monologue. The fact that you missed the point actually makes the movie's point stronger.
Yeah. Everyone's getting hung up on shitty, stupid little minor details of an overall big problem.
Oh, and the people that are just like, oh, it's just silly. We would definitely do something about a comet. Like, dude, okay, so now you're missing the satire of it all.
Right.
Now you're missing the funny part. Because and I don't know that we would. Honestly, I don't know that we would, Corey. Seriously. Like, if there was actually a comet that was going to hit the Earth and blow us up in 6 months, I really don't know, because there would be deniers. Like, that's absolutely true.
What's really funny is I was going to try to find the meme, but I'm not going to lose my train of thought by trying to look for it. A meme just popped up in my memories, and this was from like 6 years ago, before this movie even came out, and it said, "The internet is wild. If there was an asteroid literally heading towards the Earth, this would be the last meme made." And it's the asteroid, and it's that picture, that meme of Michael Jordan when he's crying, and it's that face plastered on the Earth, and they're like, "This will be the last meme ever made." And it's like, that's absolutely true. Like in the movie, when like the girl, Jennifer Lawrence's character, when she's freaking out about the asteroid on TV because they're just trying to downplay it, and like over like Yeah, just like really downplay and like laugh and scoff about it and stuff like that. All the memes that get popped up of her being crazy and not showing her any, and it just completely delegitimized her, and like the whole media movement of them doing it intentionally in the show. Yeah, it's insane.
And that's exactly what we see. Like that to me, that what you just mentioned about the movie is that's actually a dig at the left, because that's what happened to somebody like Dr. Robert Malone. Like, obviously he wasn't like memed or anything, but he was deplatformed.
Yeah,
just for
delegitimized. Yeah,
questioning his own fucking invention.
Right? It's fucking insane.
My Henry Ford point is like, I could not imagine that. And, you know, Henry Ford comes out and says, well, assembly line's great, but there are a few dangers that we should be aware of. Oh, you're deplatformed, Henry Ford. You're not allowed to speak to the town square anymore.
Get out of here.
This thing makes us too much money.
You anti-assembly liner.
Yeah, you're not allowed to make cars anymore either, by the way.
Right. Rip that. We're ripping the Ford emblem off every single car ever made.
Boycott Ford! Boycott Ford!
Yeah, no, the movie is really good. I liked it a lot. I liked the very blatant message of how we're all just a bunch of fucking idiots. And how everything is politicized. Even objective things like a virus or climate change or, you know,
a comet heading towards the earth.
Yeah, or a comet heading towards the earth. Yeah. Yeah, it's insane to me. It's absolutely insane that people are completely missing the point, which is only proving the point more of the movie.
That's what makes it so genius.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of genius, huh?
And it's a lot of smart people too. I'm like, oh God, you're lost. You're lost. Right. You're lost in your own little echo chamber. Get out.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Get out of your echo chamber.
I got nothing else for you, Corey Walsh.
I got nothing else really, man. It's a Friday night and I'm not drinking, so I'm probably gonna be playing video games and hanging out.
Meanwhile, I'm gonna edit the show.
All right, yeah. I'm gonna order some pizza for the boy.
So good.
If you enjoyed the show, make sure to like and follow us on all of your podcasts and social media platforms. We record typically every Thursday. Today's a Friday. Dan had some furnace problems,
which were not fixed, by the way.
Oh yeah, I didn't even get to ask you about that.
We'll talk about that off the show.
This poor guy. Yeah, find us on all your social media and podcast platforms at Libservative Pod on Instagram and Twitter. We're at Libservative. On Facebook, it's libservativepod.wordpress.com. That's where you can find the transcripts to all of our monologues. We post them on there. We stream here on YouTube. We're gonna be with this new platform. We're gonna be streaming on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, all sorts of them. Yeah. Stay out of that echo chamber. Confront cognitive dissonance. Try to stay away from biases, and let's make the world a better place.
And until next time, he's been Corey Walsh.
And he has been Dan Griffin.
This has been Libservative, and we're out of here.